In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, we welcome you to the Economic Forum. This is a program that throws light on the economic situation of this country, and we have with us our international professor of economics, who is in the United States of America, but is going to be with us for the next 1 hour. We are inviting each and every one of you to at least give us your ears, particularly those who are interested in the affairs of the government of this country and the politicians. That this is something that you need to pay attention to. But without much ado, we introduce our honorable professor of economics, Professor Abbas Mohammed, who is going to take from me for the next 45 minutes or 30 minutes. He's going to flow. He's going to delve deep into the economic situation of this country, followed by question and answer for 50 minutes from me, the host, Sheikh RIDWAN Abdullah, and then you have the opportunity to use the remaining 50 minutes to ask your questions based on what you hear him or what you hear from him. He's going to elaborate. He's going to go into details and give us information about the economic situation of this country, because he's a professor of economics in the United States of America. So without much ado, I introduce to you our brother, Professor Abbas Mohammed, who is going to take up from me in order to dive deep into this subject. Peace and the blessings of God Almighty be upon each and every one of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
So, Professor, the ball is in your court. Go ahead and talk to us. God is listening to you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can. Loud and clear. Go ahead. That's right.
I'm glad to be here, and I thank World Peer TV for the good job they're doing to educate Ghanaian citizens about, the economic conditions we find ourselves in. Today, I would like to give us a background, given everything that's going on around the world, particularly what is going on with the U.S. and its implications on Ghana and its economy.
That's right.
I know you're all aware of certain policies that have been implemented, or should I say, are yet for us to feel the impact. So I'm going to bring our attention to 4 or 5 things that I feel sets the stage for us to be serious about economic development. The first one is the Trump's administration immigration policies that have led to the identification of 62 Ghanaians for deportation. These people have been declared undocumented, illegal, and can be deported. As we speak, some of them have been deported already. Some are yet to be deported. So what is that to Ghana? This poses as a threat to not merely the loss of the individuals or the increment of the people coming back. It represents a potential disruption to the significant financial inflows into Ghana, because Ghanaians in the diaspora, particularly those in the United States, all of us included, contribute about $6.6 billion annually in remittances to Ghana. This amount exceeds what FDI brings in, which is $1.7 billion according to available statistics. So it means that even when we leave the government alone to find people to invest in the economy, we can only bring about $1.7 billion. And Those of us in diaspora, all of us abroad, are bringing in $6.6 billion into the economy. So if we are to go back, you can imagine the consequence on the economy. I don't know if we're ready for this, but these consequences are not just the figures I've given you. They're actually the lifelines that support the household we've left behind, the people that we support. We fund education and we foster entrepreneurship, mostly in the informal sector. So that's just one area that we're going to affect. Not only do we do that, I want us to also bring our attention to what it actually translates into. So I looked at our standard way of looking at the impact of a policy like that in terms of the contribution, what it translates into jobs. So using our economic methods and the multiply effect, what we call multiply effect, it translates into $1 million, which approximately creates about 400 jobs in, in developing countries like Ghana. So by this calculation, a $6.6 billion in remittances will support, or should I say supports, about 2.6 million jobs. So our contribution alone provides roughly about 2.6 million jobs that Ghana still, might be, dealt a blow of losing these jobs. Okay. By our
That's right.
contribution, we're supporting about 2.6 million jobs. In contrast to the FDI, because FDI only targets certain sectors like mining and infrastructure, which is vital, but it doesn't touch the lives of ordinary Ghanaians like our contribution does. So now we have to ask the question. Number one, if these people come back, we don't have jobs for them. Number two, the contribution they do to the economy in the GDP contribution is going to get affected because we contribute in two key sectors, which is consumption and investment of the GDP calculation that we do when we look at GDP. These are the two areas that we affect as people in diaspora and what we send back. So that's one issue that I want to bring our attention to. The second one is the cancellation of the US aid that you all know. Trump's administration has decided to discontinue funding US aid, which has played an instrumental role in Ghana's development, investing heavily in health, education, and agriculture, and sometimes governance. Programs of USA like Advancing Nutrition Ghana Initiative have improved the nutritional status of women and children in particular, while also supporting district level food security interventions to ensure that vulnerable communities have access to adequate food. So the reduction or the discontinuation of these programs will disproportionately affect the poorest Ghanaians, leading to increased malnutrition, stunted growth in children, and greater economic disparities. Because this is support that highlights the need for Ghana to reduce its dependency on external aid and build an economy that's resilient, driven by domestic resources and the contribution of those in diaspora. So this is a government responsibility that USAID has taken, and is usually in the remotest part of our country. So that's number two.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
So number three, another US implication of a policy that's going on is the fact that they are relaxing um, their democracy policing. I call it democracy policing, which is, enforcing democracy on us, even when it doesn't fit us sometimes. And we tend to be relaxed and not go forward with changing certain things. So this policy shift was the relaxation of pressure on nations to conform to Western democratic models. The, the Trump administration is not interested in that as it used to be. So it gives us an opportunity to reflect critically on our own democratic practices. So I believe it's time for us to reshape our democracy to better serve our economic growth because now they're not pleasing us much. So we must consider revising our constitution to allow the establishment of robust institutions tailored for our unique challenges. All right? Institutions that can
That's right.
provide long-term economic stability and development. Finally, we also have a situation that makes this very important, which is a situation with the birthright citizenship. The current administration, by executive order, has canceled the birthright citizenship. So, what does it mean to us? This shift of cancellation of birthright citizenship in the United States has, stricken what has long served as an insurance policy for Ghana's wealthy elite and politicians alike. For years, affluent Ghanaians have sought U.S. citizenship for their
Mm.
children as an edge against the economic uncertainty and political instability at home.
Okay.
This practice, in many years and in many cases, led to neglect of their responsibility to invest in Ghana's development.
Mm-hmm.
With this option now foreclosed, our elite must face the reality that their future and their children's future is inseparable for Ghana's progress.
Mm.
So it is an opportunity for our leaders, to hold themselves accountable, and we must also hold them accountable and demand
Mm-hmm.
a genuine commitment to national development. So when you put all of these together, four things I've cited. Another thing that just came in the news was the fact that we're rolling back the visa requirement to pre-pandemic period for
Mm.
visitors and anyone coming in. So now some people need not go for interview for their visas to be renewed. Now it's gonna be requiring that people go for second interviews, and you know how that works under this administration. Good luck with that when you go for a second interview. All right. So this is what we're dealing with. So you can call this a calamity if your intention is not to serve Ghana. But
Mm-hmm.
if your intention is to serve Ghana, then you call this an opportunity
That's right.
for us to look amongst ourselves and ask ourselves, why can't we figure things out? And like I said the last time, I think it's possible we can do this because we just have to agree that we have a lot of challenges ahead and that when we sit down and talk to each other, we can figure a way out. The reason why I say that is if we change the mindset from scarcity to abundance, where we believe that we have what it takes, the resources, the human capital, the youth, that when we come together and devise our own agenda, not an NDC agenda or NPP agenda, a national agenda. From dialogue, we can pursue what is possible. So now I'm going to give you a snapshot of an analysis of what I looked at because I want us to believe that we can actually develop this because people that look like us, Blacks,
Mm-hmm.
Africans, have done it somewhere else.
That's
So I
right.
would take us through the journey of, comparative analysis of Ghana and Botswana.
Mm.
At independence in 1957, Ghana had a promising economic outlook with a GDP per capita of around $490. At the time, it was one of the highest sub-Saharan Africa, one of the highest we have at the time in sub-Saharan Africa. Botswana, on the other hand, they gained independence in 1966, some 8 years later or 9 years later.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And they were one of the poorest nations at the time, globally, with just a GDP of nearly $33, according to some will say 70. However, the path we have taken has diverged significantly. Botswana today, through prudent economic policies, good governance, strategic investment in diamond mining, only one resource, Botswana has transformed into one of the Africa's most success stories. Its GDP per capita now is $7,000, supported by sound fiscal management, infrastructure development, and investment in education and healthcare. That's what they've done. Fiscal management, very important. Infrastructure development, what we mentioned earlier on, and investment in education. Ghana, on the other hand, with all the resources we have, richer resources, we could talk about gold, you could talk about bauxite, now you could talk about oil, and we still have cocoa. With all of that, we are struggled, we struggle to emerge as a nation, all right, with corruption being one of the biggest challenges we have, all right, and over reliance on these products. We were only able to bring in $2,300, $2,300 in GDP per capita. What went wrong? And remember, Botswana is a landlocked country. They don't have the ocean that we have surrounding us. And they were able to transform. So what changed? All right. There are lessons we could draw, and I've identified 5 that I've mentioned briefly, and then we will start the conversation. So one of the things I discovered is that they have prudent economic management. They have fiscal discipline, and they've been less reliant on debt financing. All right. So reducing debt reliance. So they're not taking too much loans to build. They very disciplined on the returns on diamond in order to grow the economy. So that's very important, economic management. So that's what leads the whole discussion. Then they were able to diversify to move beyond what they were able to do. So we should also move beyond gold and cocoa to manufacturing, technology, and value-added agriculture. And then we look at our democracy to ensure that the institution we have will bring transparency and reduce corruption to foster investor confidence. Right now, investors are hesitant with the system that we have to invest in Ghana. Why? Because of corruption. And then we have to empower the diaspora to facilitate investment and incentivize remittance use in productive sectors like agribusiness and housing. Then the key amongst all of that would not be possible until we do one thing and one thing only: institutional reform. We have to leverage, all right, the reduced external pressure that we have right now with the Trump administration focusing on US, to also use that opportunity to relook at a democratic, dispensation that will allow us build institutions that's tailored to Ghana's specific economic and social context. So all of this requires that we take what we call the bold approach. The bold approach, I would term it as build, own, lead, and develop. That's one of the key things we should focus on. How are we going to build our country? Are we going to take ownership? Taking ownership means we have to go beyond party politics. That we build a plan that all of us agree, so we own it. That we will establish a management team that would lead it, and then we would develop. So we need a bold approach to get us going. That will leverage all the expertise we have. So we be self-reliant, and then we can chart a path towards sustainable economic growth. So that is where I'm going to leave it, and then we can begin the conversation. But I wanted to set up this background for us to see what's possible given the challenges and the opportunity that we have with everything going on around the world.
Okay, Professor, please, you can speak for the next 10 minutes because we have people waiting to give you a call, and myself would like to take the opportunity to ask you some few questions.
Yes.
But you have to speak for the next 10 minutes so that you have 30 minutes flow. So continue to expand on your the point that you already made on foreign direct investment, and then the effects of the deportation in Ghana in comparison to the remittances that the Ghanaians used to send to the family in Ghana, which is $6.6 million. So I want you to show a little more light on it for the next 10 minutes to enable me to ask you questions for the next 50 minutes, and then we open the phone lines for people who are waiting patiently to ask you some few questions. So please go ahead and speak to us for the next 10 minutes.
All right. So what we have here is the fact that if this deportation actually happens, which I doubt that it's not going to happen because they're not playing with the immigration policy. You all saw what they're doing with the mayor, trying to bail out the mayor so he can execute on the policies of immigration in New York. So should all these people come back, the question is, are we ready to take them back? What about the contribution they make? So if you want to understand the implication, the fact that it would take about $1 million to create some 400 jobs. That's how challenging these economic policies are. Some of the things we see is millions of dollars going in to create jobs. So if someone promises you about $1 million jobs, that person is talking about using about $3 billion in expenditure to create $1 million jobs. So we have a situation where $6.6 billion is being taken out of our GDP contribution. What do we intend to replace that with? Is Ghana ready to take a hit on their GDP when these folks come back? It's going to take a dent on how much contribution we're going to have towards GDP, because our GDP is supported by the $6 billion that this remittances is doing to the economy. So what is the replacement? What is the alternative? Should this stop coming? What are we doing to make sure that, the GDP can continue to grow? Because GDP, the translation of all these economic terms, is the fact that it has to mean something. That's why I like to relate expenditure, the money coming into jobs creation. So by doing that, it gives us, something to look at. Because if I tell you that we bring in $6.6 billion into Ghana's economy, it means nothing. You don't understand that because it's not affecting you. But you can see next to you someone who has been supported by the families of people living abroad. Almost every household is supported by someone living abroad. That's the economy we have. The economy within is not able to create opportunity for individuals to actually stand on their feet to support their families. And that's what I ask that we do. Because how long are we going to be doing this cycle of pushing someone out in order for our life to be sustainable? So what are we doing with them? It's because we've given these leaders a pass, honestly. We have given them a pass to continue doing what they're doing, business as usual, with the hope that we could push someone out. And even when we have opportunity, we want to send someone, out, even from the political angle, to just go and hustle. But all of that is coming down. These nations have realized that there's so many immigrants in their countries, and that the outlook of the country is going to look different. The face of America, if it continues the way it's going, in 25 years, is going to be minority owned. They don't want that. That's why they're pushing us back. We're going to change the face of America if it continues going the way it's going, because it's going to be minority becoming majority. We're going to take over the face of America. They're not going to allow that. But what are we doing in our nations to continue also keeping, the identity that we have in nations? And stop over relying on the support system that we have in people living abroad. Okay? Because if we really mean well, then I would expect that the rich people, the elite, are not also having children outside. Because let's be honest, if you're having children outside intentionally doing that, means that you don't care about the people back home. If you're really going to develop, then let's develop it together. Let's all deal with the difficulties and grow together. And that's what we need to do right now because these people are pushing us back. Where are we going to go? We're going to come home. If we come home, is the home ready for us? The GDP is going to take a hit. What are we doing to provide the jobs? A lot of these jobs, somebody will argue, is in the informal sector. All right. But it is contributing to the GDP in terms of consumption and investment spending. The little entrepreneurs, the people we support to open shops here and there, all of that is us, those of us in diaspora. What is the country doing to create the opportunities within? Only little. So that is what we need to focus on in terms of how we're going to move from here. And I'm saying that opportunities is here because all these five things, these five key policies that the current administration is doing towards Africa and Ghana in particular is going to be an opportunity for us to look within and be like, okay, now I can have my kids abroad or I can have them in America because America seems to be the destination that's most preferred. Now that door is shut. What are we going to do? We're going to grow our country. So the time is now to sit down and look at each other and say, okay, listen, we haven't done well for 72 years. A country like Botswana has been able to evolve and have GDP per capita better than us. Twice, actually three times what the one we have. What went wrong? And we gained independence before. So what did they do differently? If we have to go to Botswana, then somebody has to go to Botswana and learn something. That's why I'm insisting if we need a fiscal discipline, we need serious economic management. We have to have a Ministry of Economic Management. That will bring everybody together on the same page. Because the Ministry of Economic Development is going to be the one to devise the agenda, get the buy-in from the nation, all of us agreeing that this is where we need to go. Like I said in the last presentation, we need a futuristic view of what Ghana is going to be like. By when do we anticipate connecting Ghana throughout? By road, railway, and having a robust healthcare system as well as transportation system. So by when do we anticipate to achieve that? It's not going to be an NDC agenda. It's not going to be an NPP agenda. It's a national agenda. That the ministry is going to carry this agenda. And then the ministry being the leader is going to bring, all the ministry will coordinate towards the economic development goal. But right now, our economic development goal is what we have in the manifesto of NDC. Because they're not looking at what the previous administration did, or they're not even looking at any development agenda that we had before, because they have to deliver on their promises. So everybody comes and deliver on their promises. Whatever they don't get done, it gets abolished. Or even whatever they did that needs continuation and sustainability, it's not going to happen because it's not the next person's agenda that they have to continue with this. And that's what is making us not develop. The fact that we don't have continuity. And the only way we can have continuity is if we have a management commission that will carry along our vision regardless of who comes to power. Until we can do that, I don't see us growing any far than where we are right now. Because we've done this for quite some time. 72 years, 32 years of democracy, 72 years of independence. What do we have to celebrate? I'm glad they decided to not celebrate the independence in a significant way because there's nothing to celebrate. It's all disappointment of us as people. Let's look within us. Ask yourself, where has Ghana gone for 72 years? Countries as small as Botswana has evolved. Countries that were in war are waking up and changing things. Rwanda. All right? These countries are all coming up. So we don't have to go far to see examples of what we can do. That's why I always say we have advantage of backwardness. Because we don't even have to go far. We don't have to look at the Western to say we're going to be like the Western. Because that's too far a target. Why don't we bring it home? Stay in Africa. Look at Botswana. Go to Rwanda. See what they do. Who's doing those comparisons? Who's studying these countries? It has to be Economic Development Ministry. because
Mashallah.
everybody has to have their own task. And I don't think we have a task of a team that is mandated by law to ensure that we can pursue certain agendas, which is why I always go back to the fact that we need an independent economic management team that
Yes.
goes across political tenure.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I really, really agree with you 100%, Professor. But you asked a question. What is going on in the market today? Is it an opportunity or a calamity? I see it as an opportunity. Really, I see it as an opportunity. We call today's economy global economy. In as much as we need America, we need Europe to lead us. Because without the raw materials of Africa, their industries will be shut down. They need us and we need each other. And what I want to hear from you, my brother Professor Abbas Mohammed, is about foreign direct investment. You see, when you're talking about foreign direct investment, it comes from some conditionalities imposed on us. There is no leader who doesn't want to develop his people. But here the situation, we don't have the money. So here comes the between institutions who are to give you loan and they tell you how to spend it in order to break down your economy. So therefore, I want to ask you, Mr. Professor, the only reason why investors come to invest in your country is when your currency is weak. So now here you go with option either to privatize your raw materials for foreign direct investment to come and invest in your economy, in your gold mines, in your diamond, in your bauxite, your manganese, in your oil. And then the economy of Ghana, generality, the economy of Africa is determined by how much dollar do you have. Since Ghana is the second largest producer of gold after South Africa, don't you think instead of relying on the dollar, we should use our gold as a stable anchor for our economy? Because the dollar, if you depend on the dollar, it goes high and low. It is not stable. So anytime the dollar goes high, it affects our economy. So do you think Ghana being the second largest producers of gold in Africa, apart from South Africa, we can tie our economy with gold instead of relying on the dollar? Do you think that will be possible?
Yeah, everything is possible. I think I mentioned this point that you just made, the last point that you just made about using gold as a commodity. So you are proposing something I would call the commodity currency kind of approach, which is what the evolution of money is all about. That is how nations have transformed from commodity-based economy, commodity currency, to what we have today as currency, fiat money. So that's the transition of money. If you talk about money, that's how money has transformed from what it used to be when we have the gold and silver as the form of, currency for transaction. That was the money for transaction at the time to today's, fiat money, which is paper money. So that opportunity still exists. That's actually the next big thing that I would think if we're really serious about this. That's why I said we need technocrats, because we now have an opportunity in a digital asset or digital currency market to use the resources that we have to actually start making inroads into digital currency. How can we place the reserves that we have in as a commodity backed currency backed by commodity? So commodity based currency is something that you are proposing, which is actually doable. Because if you look at Bitcoin, because that's the space we have to start thinking. We can think like 20 years ago or 60 years ago, but we can think about today. If you look at the Bitcoin was based on perception. There's nothing backing up Bitcoin. So imagine a situation where we have something that we call Ghana coin, also a cryptocurrency, supported by the gold reserves that we have. If we have money, who wouldn't like to have a Ghana coin on their hands? Equivalent, that would reduce our reliance on dollars. This is a serious technical currency approach that we could do, which is to me is the gold mine because it's an untapped opportunity that we haven't even done yet. All right, we can pursue that approach to transform the economy, and we reduce the dependence on dollars because we have what it takes for everybody to bring their money to us because our coin is going to be supported by real gold reserves. As we speak right now, the gold reserves in America is probably greater than what we have in Ghana, but they don't have a gold as a resource. How were they able to accumulate that? All right, over time. But what do we have to show for our gold as a resource in Ghana? So we have to rethink certain things of doing, the way we do things. And to reduce the dependence on dollars is to add value to our production chain.
That's right.
Everything we produce has to be value addition, which means we will create manufacturing industries.
Exactly. I agree.
All right. And then we can have Africa to leverage. We have rich people in Africa, billionaires, but they need the environment. That's why, no matter how you look at it, it comes back to establishing the basis. The foundation is a mindset change where we all believe that these resources are enough for us to all be okay. And that when you have an opportunity, you don't have to, amass wealth and make everybody, poor before you can be rich or whatever you call it. But if we all believe that we have what it takes, and that has to be a narrative, a vision that we all have to agree on. So it's more than just the physical resources, it's a mindset thing. If
Okay.
we can have a conversation where we all believe we have what it takes by the existence of the resources that we can actually grow together, we don't have to, take it away from someone before we okay. Everybody will get to work thinking that there's positiveness, there's hope, there is belief in the system. And that's the abundance mindset that I want us to start with. Because right now our mind is all tailored towards the fact that the opportunities is limited. And that if the opportunities is limited, we're gonna try to take advantage of every little thing I get. I don't care who's affected, I'm just gonna amass as much as that's the corruption we have. But if we change the mindset and we bring in competence, people see who is leading, not the politicians, but who's actually making things happen. It's going to be the business people, the billionaires talking on the table, figuring things out. Then we have assurance that somebody got our back. But right now, nobody can say NDC has their back because they just have all this notion that NDC is going to do their thing, and then another person will come and do their thing. We can't be working like that. We have to all come together and believe that we have what it takes for us to evolve as people, and that we have to negotiate and talk and find out a way where we have a team that's consistent in driving us forward. And people will see it when people are getting jobs, when you're applying for jobs and jobs are everywhere, manufacturing are open in your neighborhood, in your district, you can see there is innovation happening amongst the youth. Everybody is getting their hands on something. There is funds for development, startups, everything. All of these things are coming, then everybody will believe in the vision. But it
Prof,
begins with who is going to lead us.
Let me ask you this question before it is too late. We have 5 minutes to open the phone lines, but I want to get it from you, sir.
Yes.
Africa and the Middle East are the most suppliers of the raw materials into the companies in the United States of America and Europe in general.
Mhm.
Now, yes, there are policies that are enacted that disallow sovereign nations to bring in their raw materials in order to get this foreign exchange to better the life of their people. most of the companies in this country are owned by foreigners. And then also I see it as an injustice because internationally half the resources of Africa, half the resources of the whole world, half the riches of the whole world in South Africa. Yet, because of these policies, today Africa is termed as poor, whereas half the riches of the whole world is in Africa. Then how can Africa be poor? It is because of some policies, policies that are enacted that disallow sovereign nations like Ghana, in order to bring in their raw materials, to have a foreign exchange, the dollar, to better the life of our people. So I remember the sayings of our former president Kwame Nkrumah, who says the independence of Ghana is meaningless until it is linked up with the total liberation of the African countries. So right now, if Africa is to trade within themselves, and the point that you made before you stopped, we have to put value into our products, like what is going on in Burkina Faso. They used to take their gold outside for it to be refined and bring it back. Now they have a gold refinery. We produce oil in Ghana and we have oil refinery in Ghana. So, Professor, I want you to take the next 10 minutes to talk about the injustice that the Western world is imposing on Africa. Right now, as I speak to you, if you go back to history, and I thank God I'm a historian myself, you know, we die, Africa, black people die in Anzio Beach, in Palermo, at Naples, in order to free Rome, Paris, and Europe. Black Africans died during the First and Second World War in Germany. It is the riches of Africa that build the economy of the United States of America. Right now, as I speak to you, the Jews are being compensated by the United States government. But what did the Western world do to Africa for the transatlantic slave trade? Who would pay us compensation like they are doing to the Jew when we suffer to build their world? So I see it not as a calamity, but as an opportunity, because in every field of human endeavor in America, you see a Ghanaian there. So if you can take this expertise and come back home, we'll be able to rebuild Ghana for Ghanaians instead of relying so much on the Western world. Again, before the discovery of oil, we depend on agriculture, but we've been subjugated to the point that even our fertilizers are genetically modified fertilizers. So we don't produce the natural, resources that we need in order to give us health. In every economy, education and health is important. So, Prof, I want you to take the next few minutes to talk to us on on health, job creation, and self-reliance. And if those Ghanaians who are in most of the industries in Europe who have gotten the experience, if they come home, it's not about the government being able to accumulate them into the system, but rather coming down to Ghana in order to use those expertise to develop the Ghanaian. So I want you to advise us, because that's your fault, and the NDC government need some advice from people like you. So what do you think the country should do in order to stabilize the economy by balancing, not relying so much on the West? We should come back to agriculture. We should put value into our products, and we should be able to technically educate Ghanaians, not necessarily with money, and then improve on our healthcare system. So what advice would you give to the new government in order to achieve their aim, or in order to reach their goal? Being an economist in America, a professor in that matter, what advice would you give to the government of Ghana, who just took in power some few weeks ago? Please talk to me, and then let's open the phone line for people to call in and contribute. Go ahead, sir.
All right. So in order for the current government, or any government for that matter, to be able to convince Ghanaians abroad or people in diaspora to come home, they must ensure that they have institutions and systems that are working. Because oftentimes, when individuals try to go back and start something, they're facing obstacles because of existing structures. So we have to ensure that we have a transparent system, institutions that are functioning. All right. And then, of course, the rule of law, contracts have to be honored. So all these are all fundamentals that needed to happen because we have to create an investor confidence. Because you don't expect someone to leave their career or bring in all these investment, that the capital that they've built by living abroad over so many years, to come and trust the system the way it is today. It's very tricky for some people. But if we can open opportunities by ensuring that people have opportunity to be successful even before we come in, where we see an economy that's robust, everybody is going about their business. Because you ask yourself, if somebody is trying to invest in Ghana, what is the scenario looking like? Before you get one thing done, you have to talk to like some 10 different people. So because there's no jobs, so you have everybody wishing to help you, which is a good thing, but is that necessary? Does it breed confidence or does it breed corruption? So if that is breeding corruption, then you have a system that people are hesitant to come back to. We have to establish trust in the system by establishing, institutions and democracies and rule of law that allows individuals to feel confident in bringing their expertise, whether it's knowledge, whether it's money that they come with, or some kind of uh, offer that they're trying to. Everybody is looking to go back to do something for the country, but when you look at the existing setup, it's very, what they call disappointing to say the least in trying to come back. So a lot of people are hesitant simply because the examples that we have, the good examples are very few. It's a lot of bad examples that's out there. So if you want to change these things, we have to engage ourselves in a conversation that makes the environment very, very conducive for economic growth. So that is something that we can do by ensuring that we have opened up the economy for a lot of people to get to work. The youth getting to work will open up the environment. Then we use our consulate to sell the vision to the foreign diaspora people. That opportunity is here. We can guide you from step one, A, two, and three, because you have an investor that's coming from a system that is structured in a way that I know exactly what I need, what I need to do in order to get my business started. I register on the website, I do B, I do C, everything is set up. I don't have to talk to anyone. Now he's coming to start a business and he has a whole team, everybody trying to offer. And sometimes it's scary for some investors trying to do business in an environment like that. But what if we start fixing things from the bottom? Basics. People are able to eat. People will see your vision and try to help you in a better way, not to take advantage of you. Right?
Yeah.
So if we can have those confidence, so we firstly must have plans to implement sound economic policies. All right, that would include, tight monetary stance, reduction in everything that we have in terms of corruption.
You made a point, sir.
We must be transparent.
Excuse me, sir.
We
Let
must
me
be
just use the
accountable.
phone lines to enable people to call into the program to ask their question because we have barely 10 minutes to come to an end of the program. So please, if you want to be part of this, call 054-358-6584. I repeat, 054-358-6584. One more time, if you want to be part of this conversation, please call into the program 054-358-6584 and ask our professor any question that you think is bothering you. Please feel free, call in and ask your question. Prof, you can continue.
All right. So what I was saying is that we have to promote transparency and accountability in the government.
Please, I want to talk a little bit about education and health because it is in the manifesto of all the political parties in this country about health insurance and then free basic education, which I think should be a must for the citizens of Ghana to be educated. It's not a choice, it's a must. So I wanted to talk about these two important things, education and health for Ghanaians. Touch a little bit on that before we get our first caller.
So with the health insurance, I think we have something going on with the national health insurance that we have in the which was pioneered by the PROF administration. But we still have a lot of work to be done to ensure that we have adoption across every area, including being able to use it in private healthcare facilities. So these are all things we have to relook at. But even the existing structures, we're going to talk about health. It's a huge thing. It's a big animal to actually look at because the existing facilities are not even kept up to date. We still have, I can't believe in the 21st century, we have parents or mothers giving birth on the bare floor. I can't believe we still have that going on. But that's what we have right now. And that's why I'm telling you it's an all-inclusive approach to what we can do. If 72 years, the government owns most of the major hospitals, it's not working. Why can't we give it to a private management, healthcare management company that can actually put structures in place to ensure that the delivery is world-class and that the government will pick up the tab through the healthcare insurance, which is what we have over here. Not a single hospital is owned by the government.
Mr. Prof, we have our first caller. Please ask your question. Professor is listening to you. Say, go ahead. Hello? Hello? Yeah, please ask your question. Professor is listening. He's ready to answer your question. Go ahead.
Hello, Professor. Good evening. Hello, Professor. Good evening.
Good evening. Please.
Mr. Prof, somebody's on the line. Please answer him. Hello?
Go ahead.
Please go ahead. Hello? Ask your question. He's listening. Go ahead.
To copy a tone, press any two keys. The price of the current caller tunes ring is 50 pesos for 30 days.
I think we have a little bit of problem. Please continue until we are able to get you. So you were talking about the health facility in this country.
Yeah, so
if you can get into the hands of some private individual in order to facilitate this health institution for our Ghanaian fellow members, it will help us. So continue from there, and then let's see whether we can take a call. Please continue, sir.
Like I said, we can look at example.
Go ahead.
One example I can cite.
Number you're calling is
Hello, Mr. Prof. Go ahead.
One example we can cite is the system.
Hello. Check. Is everything okay?
Hello, Professor.
Yes. Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
You can go ahead, sir.
All right. So, what I was saying was the fact that we have to look at certain structures that we need to change, which is what this whole thing come about when it comes to economic development, whether it's the healthcare that we take a look at and see what system will work better for us. Because we all know when certain things are in the hands of the private enterprise, it does a better job than when it's in the government hands. So as
Mm.
it exists today, for 72 years, we have healthcare which is primarily managed by the government. It has worked in UK, it's not working for us. So maybe we should take a different approach.
So
The
do you
different
think
approach
this
was
individual that we were talking about, that private individual, should it be from outside the country or from within?
it has to be within. Now, everything we're going to talk about when it comes to private investment has to be within, but the government should be able to give us an environment that we trust that this is going to be a payback to an investor. All
Okay,
right. What is
that's
the process that if I'm an investor and I take control of, say, Confanochi, how would I get my payback for investing in
mm.
transforming such a big facility? All right, because it's not an easy investment. We could sell to an African that look like us or Ghana. First, you could sell to a Ghanaian if there's a Ghanaian available with that capital to infuse into such a a hospital, for example. How many of them do we have? How many of them do we want to privatize? So if we're going to privatize, what we get is good sound management, where the government with his insurance policy is going to pay for the patients that are qualified to use those facilities, but the facilities will be updated. But the current state we have, I read a news about something like Companoche a couple of years ago,
Mm.
actually going with cup in hands, begging for people to help fix a hospital.
Mm.
And that to me was a disappointment to all of us as Ghanaians, that we
Mm.
have a facility that we can even maintain. So why are we holding on to it? Can we find a way to bring in an investor that can take it over and get it
Hello.
return on
Now,
investment at the same time?
Yes,
what's going on, man?
you are online. Please ask your question. You are online.
I'm using Dr. Hamid, a unit committee member from medical military area. My question is, with the, let me say, looking at how dependent we are on foreign aid, and with the recent, let me say, abolishment of US aid from the American people,
Mm-hmm.
of which I know might be a wake-up call to the African leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think as a country or as a continent we can manage our own affairs without their aid? And in which way do you think we can do so?
Beautiful question.
A very good question. I think that's what I started with. I know we ran out of time, but definitely we can do it. We have what it takes. Africa is a big continent with a lot of resources. We have some billionaires. So if we set an environment that's transparent enough to be convincing for investors to come in, we will fund our own projects by leveraging partnership across Africa. And that was what Kwame Nkrumah was proposing.
Mm.
And he got kicked out. We just have to believe that we have what it takes. We have the resources. We have what it takes for the world to depend on us. But we don't have the unity in terms of purpose.
Is there any
We
caller?
don't have the unity that we all gather together and say, yes, we got this. You would do this. This country would do this country would do that. We can trade and be able to solve our own, problems.
Okay,
We
that's
can
beautiful.
leverage that partnership, and that was what Nkrumah was trying to tell us. And that vision is still possible, even today.
Mm.
There's no reason why we cannot do this by ourselves.
Yes.
We don't need anyone.
Mm.
We can do it.
Yeah, the point is well made, and we thank you, our honorable Professor Abbas, for this analysis. I invite each and every one of you, inshallah, a week from now, we are coming back with the next episode. Is there any call? Okay, so inshallah, that will be the end of our program for tonight. Inshallah, we are coming back Next week, Monday at the same time, prepare your questions. Our professor will be here to answer them all for you. But for now, we really appreciate your effort in coming to talk to us on economic and business studies in Ghana, the way forward, and then also you touch a little bit on the deportation, whether it is a calamity or as an opportunity. These are things that we need to crack our brains to determine what among the two do you think will benefit the nation. Is it an opportunity or a calamity? I see it as an opportunity. And the professor has made it clear. Inshallah, gradually we'll get there. With us is our brother Professor Abbas Mohammed, which before I put my mic down, I would like him to speak a little bit of Hazara dialect in order to introduce himself. He's one of us. He's not from anywhere, but he's among us, our son, our brother, and you need to support him in your prayers. These are the type of people we need in this country in order to contribute with the little that God has blessed him with. He's a typical example of what I'm talking about. We have a lot of expertise on different fields of human endeavor in America, and this is an example. He is a professor of economics, and there are many who are doing their parts in various fields in America. Should all of them come back to Ghana, it means they will contribute in the rebuild of this country. Ghana needs expertise like Professor Abbas Mohammed, and we have a lot of them on different fields of human endeavor. So I see it as an opportunity. So please, I want you to pay attention. He is going to speak to us in 2 minutes. Though we've already spent our time, but I'll beg the technician to give just 2 minutes for our brother to speak in our Hausa dialect. For you to know he's part of us. He's one of us. He's our brother, our son. And he is ever ready to help the country to move forward. So, Mr. Prof, jama'a na sauraren ka kaɗan ɗauki minti biyu ka mana magana saboda waɗanda ba su san ka ba su san cewa kai ɗanmu ne kuma kai ƙanin mu ne kuma insha Allah duk wani abin da Allah maka baiwa za ka taimaka ma ƙasar Ghana saboda inda ka hito kenan. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Na gode, muna yi ma Allah godiya, muna yi ma Walkiya TV kuma godiya da damar da suka ba mu hanyar muna tattaunawa kan ci gaban kasan da tattalin arzikinsa. So har yanzu dai ga halin da muka samu kanmu, so mun tattauna ne kan ababen da ke faruwa nan Amurka game da shugabancin da muka kasance ciki, wanda ya ba mu dama mu fara duban kanmu da kanmu, mu yi da juna gaskiya da cewa a shekara 72 kenan da muka karbi 'yancin kanmu, amma har yanzu muna nan muna gwagwarmaya. So dama ne yanzu da nake ganin ya kamata mu yi ma juna gaskiya. So masu saurare na daga yan waye na, yan uwa kanana da manya da iyaye da politician.
Ga wani ya kira amma ya yi late, ya kira daga ina jin bari dai mu sa shi kan layi saboda mu ji me yake faɗi. Bismillah, go ahead sir, go ahead, ask your question.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no. Correct, Bismillah. Go ahead. Please, you are listening. Please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Please speak. We are listening. No. We are listening. Go ahead. We can hear you. Please speak, we can hear you. Prof, dala ci gaba.
So abinda muka tattauna shi ne da muka samu wanda yanzu America ya ba mu shi ne mai farko mutane kamar abinda 62,000 kenan da aka tabbatar cewa ba su da takarda kuma za a iya kuma da su gida. mun tattauna kan cewa yanzu sun komo ya manan shi me za su kasance suna yi to wannan isan mu duka ya kamata mu sa tunanin mu ciki don wa'annan mutane ba mutane ne kawai kan nan ba mutane ne da ke ciyar da iyalinsu da suka bar su gida su kuma ne mutanen da ke taimaka mana wajen karatu da suke biyan fisin mu makarantayyar mu da sauransu sannan su kuma ne masu mamu kananan jallin da muke yin aiki da shi yanzu in aka ja wannan cikin tafiyan kasanmu ya za mu kasance to abinda mu fara tunane kenan so in ka kasance ka samu dama za ka yi magana da shugabanninka a fara tattaunawa kan irin wanda halin da muka samu kanmu so ababen da US ke yi da dama ya zama muna dama ne ba abin da za mu ce yana da dai tashin hankali in kai kana tunanin wanda ya yi affected ko wanda abin ya kasance ya same shi kamar muna ko kuma wani daban da zai same shi abin tashin hankali ne gaskiya ne amma kuma gari kasancewar mu duka ganin muka kasance mu fito to ganin ya samu dama mu gyara kanmu da kanmu dan da dama wajen gudun mu kenan kusan an kulle wajen ya kamata mu komo mu fara yi da juna gaskiya so abinda muka tattauna kenan ya za mu yi da yadda za mu tafiyar da lamuran shi ne mu yi da juna gaskiya misali muna da arziki da Allah ya bamu da muka manage din arzikin nan za mu yi mu duka mu ci amfanin shi ba da cutan wani ba ba da kashin wani ba ba da bata kanmu
to masha Allah godiya muke professor da Allah jama'an da suka nemi kira ba su samu ba saboda network ne amma insha Allah ku hakuri Allah ya da sabon sati za mu bude waya wanda ke da tambaya ya zo yi amma makasudin mu na kirkiro wannan platform shine dan uwan mu professor Abbas ya zo ya taimaka mana ya faɗi muna ababen da ke faruwa a ƙasar nan a game da tattalin arziki ta kuma ba kowa bane ya san wannan sai ire-iren su saboda kowa da sana'ar shi ma inda ke kenan shi professor ne a nan ƙasar America Allah ya mai baiwa ya ba shi wannan ilimin kuma shi kuma yana ga kaman in dai Allah ya taimaka maka kai ma kamata ya ka taimaka maka ƙasarka shi ya sanya yake barin aikinsa da lokacin da yake da shi ya zo kan wannan dandali mai tara albarka na Walkiya TV in ya so ya amfani da wannan gidan rediyo gidan talabishin mai daraja saboda a sanar da ɗan uwanmu 'yan Ghana abin da ƙasa ke ciki za mu ci gaba da wannan tattaunawa Allah ya da sabon sati karfe 6 zuwa karfe 7 bi izinin layi mu ne muku fata alkhairi kuma mu ne muku gaisuwa kuma ta addinin musulunci assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh
wa alaikum assalam